Hey guys, today we are going to kind of step away from the typical stuff that we talk about, dieting, training, your typical stuff that everybody discusses. And we're going to kind of dive into the emotional and the mental aspect of, people with metabolic damage or people that go through extremes with dieting during a contest prep. Because this can lead to food issues, and people just aren't, associating the two, not realizing that, going to extreme diets not only harm you physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. The first point I want to make is that there's absolutely no doubt that extreme diets can lead to food issues, weight issues, and diet issues. And this is not an opinion. This is a well-researched fact. Anyone who tries to say otherwise is either ignorant or they're ignorant with the research, or they're just being irresponsible. Does it happen to everyone? No. Can it happen to everyone? Absolutely. And my point that I'm trying to make here is that if you suffer from some sort of post-diet eating or food issue, you're not alone. So let's talk about extreme dieting, usually for contest preps. By nature, contest diets are extreme because they take the body beyond natural physiological body weight set points to force lower body weights and to lower body fat levels in order to be stage ready. The strict extreme contest diet eliminates, not only quantity of food, but also the variety that you have. While you're in this state of caloric restriction, competitors are also overwhelmed their bodies with these physical demands of training. And when this is combined with an absolute calorie deficit, this has different levels of emotional impact on the competitor as well. Most competitors will find themselves far more emotionally sensitive near the end of an extreme diet. I have a quote here from Scott Abel's book, Food Issues and You. During the course of the diet, the physical state of hunger and the emotional state of exhaustion create a heightened sense of arousal. This arousal exists on two fronts. One is the level of competitor exhaustion. This becomes an actual emotional state, and all intense emotional states, especially negative ones, seek relief from being in that state. Furthermore, the heightened sense of emotional arousal combined with physical hunger leads to a cognitive association to food as a reward. As the contest draws nearer, the emotional arousal level which seeks relief becomes more intense. The cognitive association of connecting food with reward as part of the celebration of the contest state becomes more intertwined. All right, so, like some competitors can't sleep for days before a contest. Not just because they're excited, but because they anticipate being able to break their exhaustion and hunger, by finally having that cheat food or whatever food they've been craving. And they look at that as a reward. Food then becomes associated with emotional reward, celebration, and achievement. And as the contest gets closer, the anticipation of the food becomes more intense. Food as a reward starts to take on more and more focus and attention, and a stronger emotional value as well. Weeks before the contest, there has developed a strong emotionally connected connection towards food indulgence, and this is made a lot more intense by extreme calorie deficits and food denial. This means, when an emotional reward is denied, as in food deprivation, it ends up creating an even greater value in the person's mind. Once this happens, it sets in motion, a cycle of behavior to kind of pursue the object of the reward, which is food. So the phase of food restriction without relief combined with physical exhaustion, sets in a cycle of behavior, of compulsive behavior into motion. That cycle is to pursue food as an emotional reward. This has very little to do with your metabolism and everything to do with your body's survival instinct, because you're depriving the body of what it needs, and that's food. especially in these extreme contest diets that people are doing. The diet has created such a strong association to food as an emotional reward. The state of hunger and exhaustion also creates an emotional state, that seeks relief. And anyone who has been around an extreme dieter, has seen their lack of patience, and they become very irritable. Then all of a sudden the contest day comes and it goes, and immediately the competitor has a food reward, which is not a bad thing, to celebrate and to relieve the hunger state and a heightened state of emotion. A couple of things are happening at this point. Once the pursuit of the food reward is achieved, this heightens the value of the food as being emotionally rewarding. And this doesn't typically stop just because the contest is over. And this is where the issues start arising. This has nothing to do with metabolism and everything to do with emotional states. The problem is that the process of extreme dieting for a contest, induced emotional states. These states are either rewarded or relieved with food. Food then becomes the object of reward, attention and value. There are, a few ways this tends to play out. When you expect the indulgent food to bring you pleasure, like in a post-contest meal, this enhances the reward. And when you expect the food to bring you relief, this is a negative reinforcement. So now we have the post-contest situation where the emotionally rewarding value of the food is magnified. So at this point, the food becomes something else entirely. It's no longer the taste of the food the person craves, but the payoff of which they expect to get out of it. And remember, this payoff can be some kind of reward or distraction. It can be used to relieve unwanted states of boredom, if you're worried, anxiety, whatever it may be. As most, indulgent eaters know, this cycle of anticipation and relief can take on a life of its own. This is no longer a metabolic issue. It's now it's an emotional issue. And if one diet attempt leads to another, then this intense focus on the food as a reward can become an obsession, leading to a diet, eating, and food issues, and the mental and emotional issues that come with it. So the competitor works long and hard towards one goal, but then it comes and goes really quick. And for some competitors, this leads to kind of a depressed state, so like post-contest depression, and anxiety over their weight gain after the contest, which is a normal thing. The extreme contest experience has led or leads the competitor to associate food as an emotional reward, one that relieves emotional states. And it should be easy to understand that in the post-contest period, any heightened state of emotion, even being bored, can lead someone to seeking food. And the reason is because extreme diets that create emotional states that seek relief and reward. This process is not only likely to continue in the post-contest period, but it's just as likely to intensify. This is how extreme diets and contest diets can lead to, your eating, food, weight, and diet issues. Not many coaches out there are going to make this kind of psychological assessment in regard to a competitor's, pre-contest psychological preparedness. Getting the competitor to understand, what contest prep entails. So, still others will, try to pass it off as it's nothing to worry about, or that's that person's opinion. This is not an opinion. This is a psychological research into eating and food disorders. Not recognizing this is very irresponsible. I know many competitors who have, food and weight issues, diet issues, eating issues, ruling their lives and ruining their lives. It's just time for some experts to step up and want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So if you suffer from some kind of post-diet, post-contest eating or food issue of any kind, trust me, you're not alone in this. I receive emails all the time from females especially that just do not have a healthy relationship with food. But you got to understand the way out of this is not another diet and not another contest. Those will only make things worse. Need to get help with proper coaching and support. You know, then if and only if you have a healthy relationship with food, should you even attempt to compete again, and not go to the crazy extremes that our competitors are going to now with, these 700-calorie diets, 2 hours of cardio a day, wearing squeams and all this insaneness that's out there. So I hope this, just opens the eyes up to what other things are going on, with these extreme diets, and not just metabolic. Yes, that is a part of it, and it's a bad part, but the psychological ramifications, developing these food disorders and dieting issues and everything are just as bad. So I hope I hope everyone gets something out of this, and just take a step back. If you know someone that's doing this kind of stuff, or if you're doing it yourself, please get away from it and start being healthy.